Good morning to one and all. This is Dr. P. Lavanya, working as Associate Professor in MBA Department in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Dundigal, Hyderabad. So today we comes across the case studies relating to the international pricing, which we famously call as dumping. So as we know that international price discrimination or international pricing is different from local price to the exporting of the goods and services to the other nations. So we analyze some case studies relating to this, how these international pricing revolves or evolved in dumping situations and what sort of strategies that a country will take into the account while understanding these international pricing or dumping situation. So we evolve one or two case studies relating to this international price discrimination or dumping situations. So the first case study we comes under these dumping was related to the United States, which faces the accusation of dumping the agricultural product. Means at an international level it was accused that itself is dumped a lot of agricultural product, particularly subsidized crop in various international market. So how these US agricultural sector benefited from the government subsidiary and leads to the overproduction and exporting of these surplus overproduction at a price below the cost of production. Means by getting the subsidiaries from the US government, these agricultural industries has produced a lot of goods, and that excess goods they have been sold in the external market at a lower price than the cost of production due to evolving subsidiaries by the US government. So we analyzed what are the factors influencing for these dumping activities, and also we can identify that how these developing nations like US will practices the heart of their local farmers and discussing upon the agricultural trade reforms gained in monumenting the international forums. Means how this internationally the US government followed some practices and how it encourages the local farmers in discussion on agricultural trade and gaining some reforms at an international forums. So these points we analyzed in this case study relating to the dumping activity. First we'll see what is this US agricultural dumping and its impact upon the international market. As United States agricultural sector, where it itself was supported by the government of US by providing and enhancing the subsidiaries, where the government itself was accused at international forum which engaged in dumping practice at international markets. As dumping occurs only when country exports at a lower price of the product than its cost of production. So one which often a company or a organization is fueled by its subsidiaries. So in this case, how the surplus production resulted from subsidiaries layered by exporting of agricultural product at particular perceived price as unfairly lowered by the other countries. Means as with the help of the subsidiaries provided by the US government, how these US agricultural industry has been dumped the product at international level with lower prices in the competition with other nations' product. So the importance of these international price discrimination or pricing was as the government subsidiaries and overproduction. So the US government offered the substantial subsidiaries to its agricultural industries, which ensures the stability and supporting the farmers and maintain the food security. Means internally government want to support the farmers in the stabilization of farming and also to maintain the food security within the country. Along with this, it has been evolved the subsidiary which has been led to the overproduction of certain crops which was creating surplus needed to export in order to avoid the domestic market saturation. Means when overproduction was done, automatically the lower the prices will decreases more in the local market and automatically the product saturation will comes. So in order to avoid that situation, these agricultural industries has dumped with the external countries lower than its production cost. So how that impacted the international markets? So developing the countries argued that US dumped the practices that determines the which impacted their local farmers. So the influx of cheap US agricultural product made it difficult for local farmers to compete the terms of pricing. Means due to the dumping of these excess US agricultural product or the cheapest product at a international level, their country's local farmers was unable to get the maximum price for their product, and it turn would leads to the declining the economic viability of agriculture of those countries, threatening the food securities and livelihoods. Means due to the dumping of these US product, the other nations where their products are dumped, that country local farmers faced their livelihood problems and unable to market their product and would threaten the food security in their local nations. So with these trade reforms and international discussions, means with these arised a discussion at an international forums relating to these US dumping agricultural products. So the acquisition of these dumping sparkled, a discussion was made upon the agricultural reforms on various international forums such as WTO, that is World Trade Organization, came forward and identified the accusations what they have been done by the other nations relating to this US government agricultural dumping products. So these developing nations advocated for certain measures that would address the negative consequence of this US agricultural dumping, which seeks the level playing field of their farmers. Means as these developing nations has been entered into this international forum for discussion ranges, and they themselves has been asking to overcome the negative impact what these agricultural product done by these US government has done, which leads to playing with their farmers' livelihood. So with these economical and political implications has been given by the international forums like World Trade Organization. So the economical implications what these US dumping were given in two types or the twofold effects. While providing affordable food in the short term with the importing countries, it itself has provided the sustainability of the local agricultural impact. Means one twofold economical implication was given by the World Trade Organization, which was telling that importing the goods in a short run range, means maybe the goods should be imported to the limited period. So with this, the internally sustainability of the local agricultural product will be enhanced. So along with that, politically tensions arose between US and developing nations. So due to this dumping of agricultural production, so internationally political tensions was arrived. Means some relationship between these developing nations and US government has been affected, such that the US government has to rectify its dumping activity and perceiving as it is an unfair trade practices. Means due to the changing the political situations with the different nations, the US government came forward for its act or subsidiary what provided for the local agricultural product and itself want to rectify its unfair trade practices. So with this we can have an analyzation how these international forums help the developing nations to avoid these dumping activities from US agricultural product. So with this we have the first analysis like economic rationality versus the social impact. From the economic point of view, as US subsidiaries and dumping practices has been rationally respond to the ensuring the food security and supporting the domestic agriculture. So economically, as maybe monetarily we have more money also, we should not go for excess of production. So rationality to be maintained and responsive of food security and also supporting the domestic agriculture is required. However, the social impact upon the farmers in developing these countries arises the ethical concerns. Means economic rationality has been raised to the social impact or the social awareness relating to the ethical concern of that certain government. So these along with the social rationality, social impact and economic rationality, we have the trade liberalization challenges are also came into the existence. As these US government's dumping activities has been highlighted, the challenges associated with the trade liberalization means over liberalization of the trade has been challenged the international or local impact, social impact or the negative social impact, which challenged with associating the trade liberalization and pursued the economic interest through subsidiaries, global consequences and promoted reassessment of balancing the free trade and protecting the verbal economies. Means maybe these challenges what are associated with these dumping activities should be given consider of economic interest, global consequences what the companies has to be faced, where we require the balance of free trade and protecting of these economies. Along with that, we have the multinational corporations as international discussions underscore the impact of what these multinational corporations are addressing. Global economic issues to be considered and sustainable solutions are required to collaborate effort and reconcile the economic interest of the different nations. Means international standards or the international discussions related to the some importance of these cooperative addressing should be done at a globally sustainable solutions to be identified and economic interest of the different nations to be safeguarded. So along with that, need a policy of adjustment. So in order to control the these type of economies who are having dumping activities, involved in the dumping activities of different nations, the US forum or international forum has been need for a policy adjustment which emphasizes a need for US to consider its policy adjustment and balance the domestic economic interest with global social and economic stability. Means international and global stability should be identified. And for this, a policy should be maintained at international level, which is very much required for crucial fostering the fair and sustainable international trade should be done with the help of this international policy adjustment. So with this, we can go for conclusion of this case study, how this US government has been dumped its agricultural products, which highlighted that interactive and interplay between the domestic economic policies, global trade dynamics, and ethical consideration of international relations to be identified. So with this, we also addressed the different types of challenges what we required in nuanced approach as it involves in cooperation, policy adjustment, and commitment of balancing the economic interest with the social and environmental responsibility upon the global stage. Means not only the US government relating to the dumping activities, other nations are also developed or the developing nations must and should identify that what type of cooperation and policy consideration to be done and commitment of this balancing the economic interest with the social environment, which help these companies to identify their own responsibilities at a global stage, such that dumping should not affect the local products or the local livelihood of the individuals. So for this reason, international trade, these agreements and the tariffs has been done in the discussion problems and which was enhanced by the World Trade Organization. So this is a case study relating to the US dumping activities and how international discussions and forums safeguarded the developing countries from the US dumping activities. With this, we go for another case study relating to these international pricing strategies, maybe like pharmaceutical industries. As we know that pharmaceutical industry is very much global growing trend and also required for the life saving of the individuals. So we require a global research of these pharmaceutical industries which are developing for life saving drugs. However, pharmaceutical industry they themselves also faces the challenges which relating to the pricing strategies, especially when it comes to the international markets, and how these companies are facing these challenges. And also this case study will expose a hypothetical scenario involving the pharmaceutical companies like Pharma X and its use of international pricing discrimination. Means the global research and development of the pharmaceutical companies and evolve in pricing strategies at global nations, we can explain or explore by taking the Pharma X, a leading pharmaceutical company at a global level or international level, and identify this price discrimination. So here we come to an introduction of this Pharma X, which is in a leading global pharmaceutical company with a diverse product portfolio. Means having any different types of drugs within a diversification of number of varieties and portfolio analysis. It have recently reached a breakthrough medication for chronic conditions which affected the million of people at a worldwide. Means the recent launched drug relating to the medication of a chronic condition affecting the million of people. So we come to an exploring of this case study, how this drug was undergone with an extensive research and development and leads to the high production. Means here with the Pharma X we can say that some importance is required in case of dumping, as it is an advantageous for many growing nations, developing nations in case of pharma companies when they provide at a cheaper cost than overproduction, as they are needed and life-saving drugs for different developing nations. So with this international market scenario, when you have been identified in case of Pharma X, which is operating at a different nations with a different economic conditions, healthcare systems and regulatory environment. With these, the demand for the new medication varies across the regions. Means requirement has been verified at international level, and these differences is disappears the prevalences and patients demographically. Means as these widely scattered by the demography as a global company, so they should identify the economic conditions of different nations and that country's regulatory environments and also healthcare system. Why? Because every company, every country having a various cautious regulatory environment in case of pharmaceutical drugs and the pharmaceutical usage. So with these company has to identify the various new meditation, how we should give across the regions and patients which are prevail in across or the different boundaries. Now we see that how international pricing has been the discriminating strategy. In order to maximize the revenue of this company, it catered the diverse marketing conditions. Means different types of marketing conditions based upon the requirement. As pharma itself requires for global international company with a more revenue or global profits. So it adopted for international pricing strategy as the new medication adjusted. Means these medicine what they have been provided adjusted based upon the price discrimination. So such that how that adjustment is done based upon the some factors of different nations. So based upon the company's economic considerations, the adjustment of price discrimination is done. When the country is having within a higher purchasing power, then farmer set a high price for its medication product. If the company is charging the market with lower income levels or the middle and the lower class or lower level countries where they have been set a lower or affordable pricing strategy. With this, the healthcare variation means that internationally, due to this setting of the price, high price to the premium countries and the lower price to the developing and underdeveloped nations has been robusted the healthcare systems, and insurance coverage plays an important role for higher pricing as patients more likely to afford the medication. Means the insurance policy is also one of the factors taken into the consideration while offering the premium or low cost pricing by these pharma X company. So the countries with a less comprehensive healthcare coverages, pharma adopted low pricing strategy. Means insurance policy provided by the central governments are very less. So for that countries or developing or underdeveloped countries, it was set at a low pricing strategy in a broader manner. But the countries like developed countries where they have a high insurance coverage from the government or the external factors has set up a premium pricing strategy. So with these regulatory considerations to be identified, which compliances with local regulations and approval process influencing the prices. Means with these the local regulations and approval process will be influenced by the pricing pattern of the pharma X medication drug. So in this reason, with a stringent regulatory requirement, the pricing may reflect the additional cost associated with the regulation compliances. When a strict regulation was there, so the price was increased by enhancing that regulation. So with this, we can analyze that as this pharma X involved in maximizing revenue, means increasing the profits at international price discrimination, which allow the company to get more potential revenue and also the target market segmentation. So by tolerating the price based upon the local conditions, company can optimize its pricing strategies from different customer segmentations. Means based upon the customer's locality and consideration and segmentation, company offers the different types of pricing strategies. So with these accessibility and affordability, so how the countries was able to assess and afford this drug, which enhanced the pharma X to have been a medication in a diverse market. So based upon the requirement and countries' economical, local, political conditions and affordable situation, it marketed its drugs in a diverse market. So patients with low income countries access the drug at a more affordable or low price, which is contributed by the global health equity, means providing to the underdeveloped nations or the patients required people where they have given at a lower price based upon the global health equity and along with market adaptation. So maybe these are required products. So dumping helped more advantages for underdeveloped nations relating to these medication. Pharma X was ability to adopt various market conditions, demonstrating the strategies in a flexible manner. Means based upon the different nations, different markets, it demonstrated its strategy, the taking the flexibility into consideration. So this approach enhanced the company to respond effectively to the economic downturns and change the healthcare policy and other external factors. Means with this advantage of strategy of flexibility, where the country's economies itself has been taken into the consideration relating to the policies and also the external dynamic factors. Along with this market adaptation, these pharma X is also taken into the consideration the ethical things to be identified. Why? Because it is the life-saving drugs where we should provide or we should give a helping hand to the developing nations. So with these Pharma Acts, the ethical consideration at international pricing strategies could have a sound business strategy. Means pricing strategies in a discriminating level is a very good revenue earning strategy for developed nations, and which has been balanced both profit maximization and ensuring the affordability of life-saving drugs, which made a challenge of the crucial for Pharma X to maintain its international reputation and also the social responsibility. So ethical consideration want the Pharma X to be balanced the reputation of the country relating to the social responsibility and also the financial consideration. So with these, we can come to the conclusion saying that how advantage is done to by dumping activities or international pricing related to these life-saving drugs by given by the Pharma X of evolving in a pricing strategy which is a complex but most effective, which navigated the global pharmaceutical landscape. Means at a globally it gave a navigation of the direction that required things or the necessity or life-saving products should be provided through dumping helps for the developing nations or underdeveloped nations to safeguard the people's health and life. So we have to balance in case of these dumping activities some sort of economic considerations to be ethical responsibilities. Means more focus should not be done upon profitability. Ethical consideration is also to be considered, which is essential for each and every company in case of long-term success and sustaining the pricing strategies of these pharmaceutical industries. Means international pricing in case of pharmaceutical, a dumping a most advantage or life-saving things for the developing nations. So these type of strategies will help us to enhance the company's success in the long run relating to the pharmaceutical industries. So these are the analysis of the case study, which was a dumping create advantages to the some of the nations, and another case study, the first one relating to the US agricultural product, which created a negative impact by the dumping. So both these case studies has been enhanced. More dumping goes for negative impact, and some requirement like life-saving necessities, dumping help for the advantages for the different nations. So these are the two case studies which we can enhance in case of international price discrimination or dumping. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.